And so we're gonna share something with you that is very important to me. I have to listen to it very closely because what I have been experiencing physically, and as I looked at this, what's really interesting about this, most of these studies that I'm doing right now, I wrote in Key West last November. So when I'm seeing them a couple days ago, just to refresh what they're about, they're teaching me all over again. So I get kind of excited about them, and I hope that you will too. And this one is particularly important for me because it's where I've recently gotten into a lot of trouble physically, and it's Buddha's teaching on oneness. Oneness. And that's what I have failed to accumulate in my physical experience. So this, you'll find today, this is very important and very practical, and it's not something that you'll have to figure, well, someday in a sweet by and by. This is something that you'll be able to utilize and make a part of your life today, see? Because Shakyamuni Buddha made it very clear, and this is really what's important and what I missed. There is no fundamental distinction between the physical and spiritual aspects of our life. No distinction. Physical, spiritual, the same. And that's what I missed, because with this blood pressure situation that I'm experiencing, this illness that I came up against, which kind of devastated me for a while here because I had never been sick before, I was finding myself coming into this church and having magnificent spiritual experiences. You know, I could Om, and I was flying through nirvana with nymph wings, and everything was wonderful. And the only thing is, after I would get done and I would touch down from nirvana, I would shoot over to the Chinese restaurant and dump about 6 tons of sodium inside myself and wash it down with a half gallon of ice cream. And all of a sudden, I found out that something was going wrong inside here. See? So I was very, very, very tuned into taking care of the spirit, but I wasn't tuned into taking care of the body. And Buddha said many, many years ago, there's no fundamental difference between these two. Very, very important. There has to be a oneness of mind and a oneness of body, because this is what Buddha said 3,000 years ago. This is the point. Whatever affects the mind will affect the body. And whatever affects the body will affect the mind. And that is one of the basis parts of our suffering, not understanding that. Whatever affects the mind will affect the body, and whatever affects the body will affect the mind. And Buddha taught that illness has 3 aspects, actually 4. Spiritual, which we know, it'll affect your spiritual. Emotional, and definitely emotional, and mental. Okay? And all of these things, I found myself sometimes, all of a sudden, you know what bothered me more than anything about this? How can I have blood pressure problems and be teaching you about being quiet? And that's what a lot of people ask me that. I'd say, well, I had to say off from work, I had a blood pressure problem. How could you have a blood pressure? And then I thought, geez, how could I? And right away, I start to get a mental problem with this. I'm taking pills. I shouldn't have to take pills after all. I can meditate. But Buddha confronted me one evening here in the back of, as I was cleaning up the place, getting ready for a Friday night, and the voice came into me and said, I taught you about this. Renge, Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. Renge is cause and effect. And Buddha spoke to me spiritually and said, the effect is your high blood pressure, the cause is you. And so what am I going to do to start putting new causes in so that there are new effects? And here, this is what Buddha taught. Diseases thought to be incurable are often conquered by mind over matter. And of course, most of us understand that, and most of us understand that's the basis of religious teachings. It's where we get into some trouble, and this is the difficult part. We have to look to doctors. See, I won't forget this, is when I first got to this specialist that's treating me now, I looked at him and I said, well, he did one of these exams. You ever go for a complete physical? I mean, this guy was complete. You know what I'm telling you? It was a complete physical. Yes, George, a complete physical. And anyhow, I looked, I said, well, I don't know what this is all about. I said, but I only went to the other guy for a cold. And he found this, and this doctor looked at me and then he said, you know what? He said, that's a blessing. Because now I know about it, so you'll be okay. Because what I didn't know, it's the same thing with religion. I thought you were supposed to feel this way. See, I had been feeling this way for so long, it got to be normal to me. I didn't realize that. I shouldn't be feeling this way. What was inside and what was lurking inside and what was going wrong, I had no idea, so I thought everything was okay. Buddha taught that it's fine to look to a doctor, but there's got to be a realization that the most powerful force in the earth is within ourselves. It's within ourselves. And that's what Jesus said, it's in Luke 4, verse 23, and you don't have to look it up now, but Jesus Christ said, physician, heal yourself. Incidentally, that's a very interesting point to prove that Jesus was a Nazarene. And as a Nazarene, he was an Essene, because the Essenes were called therapeutes. That was the name given to the Essenes in biblical times, therapeutes, which means physician. And Jesus said in Luke 4:23, I know you will say to me, physician, therapute, heal yourself, which means he was an Essene. And the Essenes were spin-offs of the Buddhist cult of that time. This is the problem, however, sometimes what you get into with doctors. If you place total reliance on a doctor, you are then told by a very powerful authority, possibly, that the condition is incurable. And when that happens, then that can cause a lack of hope, a loss of hope. This is what happened to this girl. Marge was told by this doctor, I'm sorry, you better put your things in order, because in 18 months you're going to leave this world. In 18 months you're going to die. Well, it's been 27 months, and as I said, she's in great shape. She's entering, well, she's in reasonably good shape. She's entering the Mrs. New Jersey contest. But there's a real problem here. And she had to come here and find within herself that which would overcome the authoritarian voice that said, hey, you're going to die in 18 months. In other words, if I say this doesn't look good, you don't pay a whole lot of attention to it. But if a doctor comes out with all of these x-rays and all of these tests and says this is not good, it scares you. And what happens is the effect that that authoritarian statement has on the mind can be tantamount to a death sentence, because what happens when the fighting spirit inside that lies dormant is not allowed to rise, then there's no hope. And this is what we're talking about. How do you know what can happen when you activate the cells of the right hemisphere of the brain? How do you know what can happen? How do you know what can happen when you bring together all of that which is the force of that inner Christ, that inner God? How do you know? We don't know. Every one of us sitting in this room is 90% ignorant. You use 10% of your brain. And so then the Bible instructs you to tithe. Give that 10%. Give it in meditation. And this is what doctors are finding out. We were talking the other night about a doctor, Jimmy and Judy loaned us this tape, and this fellow was talking about they fed this high cholesterol diet to these rabbits. And they wanted to see the rate of cholesterol in the blood of these rabbits and how many come up with hardening of the arteries. And they found this whole group of rabbits came up with hardening of the arteries and high cholesterol. The other group of rabbits didn't. And they couldn't understand it because they said, wait a minute now, we weren't doing a test like this. We were just trying to see how long it took. Why didn't these rabbits get any high cholesterol or hardening of the arteries? What the heck's going on? But they found that the people in this one section who had control of this group of rabbits, every time they would take them out to feed them, they would kiss them and smooch them and hug them and cuddle them. And they didn't get high cholesterol. So what happens? Something happens. Something happens when you find within you there is something waiting to cuddle you and coddle you and take you. And so you have this. When you come in here on a Tuesday night meditation, after the meditation is over and the music is done and the lights start to move, people sit here and they're just staring. They don't get up to run out. They don't say, oh, what time is it? Oh, I got to get that out of here. What time? They sit and they stare. And then it takes time as the beta delta starts to raise itself back up to the theta alpha or whatever. They start to come out of it a little bit, and they say, geez, I had such a beautiful time. What happened? They've been coddled. They've been made to feel good. And all of that contributes to the restoration of life. And so I can't stand up here and feel bad because I have bad blood pressure because I screwed up on my body. I have to understand that I was trying to get centered. I'm trying to get a oneness. And I got my spirit way up here, and I got my body way down here. How could I possibly get a oneness? And so I realized then that I have to get them together and then get centered. And I'll do that. Very determined to do that. When we were up in New York, remember, Jim? George were surrounded by people. A lot of those people were giving me magic potions and all of this stuff for my blood pressure. One lady was going to pour things in my bathtub, and I would slide in there. When I slid out the other end, my blood pressure would go. Maybe. Who's to know? Another lady said, you got to do exercises. I said, I can't do exercises. The doctor says no. Oh, she says these are Buddhic exercises. She says, here is exercise number 1. And she starts spinning around. Well, I can't do that more than 2 times as I throw up. I can't do anything like that. You know, spinning around is no good for me. So all of these things, though, are all part of coming back to oneness, understanding that there's more to life than spirit, there's more to life than the body. There has to be a oneness, see? See, here's the problem. In the medical profession, the objective is to treat in what Buddha would call ki. That's the physical. Okay? And what they do, nothing is done for ku. That's the invisible, the spirit, or that which lies dormant inside of you. Every one of you have ku. You didn't know you had ku? You got ki. I can see ki, but you can't see ku. But let me tell you what ku. You all have a temper. You know how you have a temper? Yeah, I have a temper. You know? Sometime when the nurse does something and I say, you know, you know what she does? I'll sit in she'll say, no, I want you to rest. I want you to rest for your high blood pressure, so I want you to sit down, put your feet, put the lazy boy back and just rest, because you've got to have your rest. And as I'm sitting there having my rest, all of a sudden the nurse plugs in the vacuum cleaner. Bah! And she comes in all over that place. All of a sudden, out of ku comes something into ki. It's a temper. What does it mean? What is Buddha saying? In ku is your temper right now. And what do you need to make it happen? Something to stimulate it, right? All you need is something to stimulate it. In other words, you look at you looking, now you're very nice. Lorraine is very calm. Everybody's here very nice. You're having a very nice time. And you reach the bond. Everybody's very happy and very pleasant. Oh, we're having a wonderful time. Look at you, all my new dress on and all this kind of stuff. But then one thing can trigger, bang! And all of a sudden, geez, you know, I can't see it. It's like when Dave will go into a restaurant today for Easter dinner. And that man has never gotten what he's ordered in any restaurant he's ever been to. Never, ever gotten what he's ordered. And all of a sudden, he'll sit down. Oh, it's so nice to be with you in our Easter bonnet. And here comes the dish. I didn't order this. What is this? And, of course, the little Mexican girl at the restaurant's made the statement that I think all we've heard so many times. I don't know what it is. Nobody knew what it was. I didn't order this. So you go from the beautiful, peaceable heaven of in your Easter bonnet, next thing you're in hell. And because something in ku has been stimulated and it comes into ki. We have tapes. Hold up an audio tape. Through the window, look at this. See, that's an audio tape. Will you hold it up again, please? That's it. That audio tape there is in what? It's in ku. If you make it onto a machine with wheels and it goes just at the right thing and is amplified, what happens? It comes into ki and you hear da-da-da-dun, da-da. In other words, it manifests out of ku into ki. And that's what Buddha's talking about. In ki, they treat the physical, but they don't know what's going on in ku. I mean, this doctor that's treating me, he's treating me for the high blood pressure like you would. He gives you the pills. He looks at, boom, it's going up, it's going down. How come this? How come that? I don't know. What's this? But he doesn't know that I am a nut. And inside is all of this stuff going on. See, my wife, Joan the nurse, knows. What did I do the last time I went there? I don't remember. You'll have to come up. This is her chance. See, she always says, tell them what you did the last time, knowing that in order for me to get this, she has to get on television and stuff. So come on, that's all right. Show them your new Easter dress. What did I do?
Okay, Bill really wasn't feeling good. It was a week ago Thursday, so I said, you better go to the doctor today. So we met over at the doctor's. We get in the office. I'm fine. Nothing's wrong with me. Pills are wonderful. I'm not having any reaction.
I love the pills. Pills are great.
You know, I'm just fine. So Dr. Rosev's looking at me, and he's looking at Billy, like saying, what is going on here? I'm doing great. Just let me go home. You know, I'm fine. But he was afraid that Dr. Rosev was going to put him in the hospital.
Yeah, you know, some of these guys say, well, if you're not doing this, we'll put you in the hospital. So the best way out of that is say, how's everything? Great. I'm feeling great. Everything is fine. How come your hand's shaking like that? That's an exercise. It's a Buddhic exercise. Just shakes his hand. But anyhow, this is what we're talking about. See? What happens here, then, that can get the treatment, this is what Buddha's teaching you, to get the treatment from ki into ku. You know what happens? Caring. Caring. All of a sudden, when somebody cares, the treatment moves from ki and then starts to drift down into ku, that which is inside of you. That's why I get such good treatment from her. Why the heck would I go to hospital? I got a professional registered nurse in my house. Say, but there's a difference. She cares. And then when I come to you and people tell me, you care. You really do care that I get better. And that gets right from the physical. The doctor can only treat physical. He cares, but not in the same way. And he's a professional. So he has to limit it here. But when I talk to you and other people and I come into the spirit, I get that real caring feeling that really people are concerned and they want me to get better. And that's what I felt in New York and I feel here. So then it goes down into ku. So then the whole person is treated. Then there's a oneness. See, you can't treat somebody physically and have a complete treatment, a holistic. You have to care. And then when you care on a personal level, you treat the whole thing. That's what Buddha's talking about. And that's what he says is the source of our problem. See, we have a body that's the same as an animal. There's not a whole lot of difference. Animals get the same diseases that we do, basically, really. I mean, I've seen little birds and little dogs or whatever, and they get just as sick as you doing the same types of things. But there's a difference. We have a spirit that they don't have. You know, I never forget talking one time to a veterinarian, and he was showing us around the cages in the hospital, and he said to us, you know, there's a big difference in operating on a German Shepherd and operating on a Collie. When I operate on a Collie, I have to stay with it, and I have to hold it, and I have to pet it, and I have to be very concerned about it, because the Collie by nature and instinct will give up, get very depressed, and die. The German Shepherd, I will not stay here. And it won't get, it'll survive. The same operation that'll kill the Collie, the German Shepherd will say, "Atung, we go, phew, out, I'm getting out of here." What, fakakta with this. So he doesn't have to worry about that. But see, that's built in. But all of us and some of us have that same way. I'm kind of a little bit of a nut with this kind of stuff. So caring, people that care about me, very important. So how do we reconcile in these two contradictory aspects of ourselves? The physical beast and the invisible God. Religion. Here we go. In order to reconcile this, religion. Because the one's taking care of the physical, the other's taking care of the spiritual, we have to reconcile this with religion somehow. So what religion tried to do, unfortunately, they tried to elevate the spirit at the expense of the flesh. When you had people that got too deeply into the physical aspects, they would burn them in Europe, burned heretics, destroying the evil flesh to set the spirit free. That was the reasoning behind all of that. There was people in Victorian days that were so concerned about the flesh, they actually covered the legs of pianos. They really did. They're shaking their head. They actually draped covers because, you know, some of the guys are coming to the concert and they could kind of get, hey, man, I'm into piano legs, you know. I'd just like to take this to XXX Fantasy Fetish Video down there. Hey, I'm sorry, man. You got anything on piano legs in here? You know, I'm into, so like they said, because last night, you know, they moved the chairs out. I go nuts. When the people move the chairs here, I get a feeling that these chairs are never going to find their way back. So the whole time I was sitting here last night and they're doing the electric slide, I was saying, how are the chairs going to find their way back? What's going to happen? See? So then somebody said to me, he's got a fetish for chairs. So I thought, geez, the XXX Fetish Fantasy, I could start a new thing, you know. Here's a whole 3-hour videotape on chairs. Well, that'll get you, I'll tell you. Wow. But see, in religion there's no oneness because there's an attention to the spirit only. And I made the same mistake here. See, but this is the way I learned. I'm learning this the same way that we all are together learning this. And I was really, I'm drubbing into your head the spiritual aspect. Well, wait till you see me. As soon as he gives me, I'm going to give me a stress test. Yeah, I get out of breath walking up this thing here, so what's going to happen? But that's all right, because he's going to give me the stress test. Pretty soon I'll come in here, looking like this, you know, and I'll be, and then we'll get into this thing. But I'll try to bring myself into a physical oneness with spirit and be able to be much more understandable. Because believe me, I know what it's like to tell somebody, don't worry, Joe, take no thought. I found out a couple of weeks ago what it's like to take no thought while you're waiting for the results of the blood test. Try it. Take no thought. You might have kidney disease. You might have cancer, you might have diabetes, all of these things come back because why is these things? And then your mind tells you, why isn't it going down? You're not eating salt anymore. It's probably because you have this. But thank God for the meditation, because then I started Nam Myoho. Whatever few moments I could get to break away from those dredges of the mind that were frightening me, I was able to go up and to stay in the upper room. As very few moments I could get, it carried me through. Because there's the one extreme, concentrating on the spirit. The other extreme is the materialism, and then you see the sexual revolution and all the wild things that went on in that. We know the sexual disease, the attention to the physical, both are disasters. So we come here because the leader of this group learned a very serious lesson. I got a wake-up call that we've got to respect physical as well as spiritual, and both have to be equal. One can't take precedence over the other. But what about oneness? So let's take religion out of here for a moment, because that hasn't addressed it. So we have to come into a oneness which is the middle way. Okay? The middle way. That's where we're going to find oneness. See, in Buddhist terms, the problem is that society and religion either swing to the physical, the health clubs, wonderful, or to the spiritual religion. But they don't find the middle way. And Buddha says, you cannot insist on ki or ku. You've got to choose chu. Do you see what I'm saying to you? What's he talking about? Look. Who's got a sheet of paper? A sheet of paper. Come on. Nobody in here? You come in here on a Easter Sunday morning without a sheet of paper? Here's a sheet of paper. See the sheet of paper? This is the Trinity. A lot of people, I don't understand the Holy Trinity. Let's say the sheet of paper, that's chu. The piece of paper, the whole thing is chu. Now, one side is ki. The other side is ku. You cannot have a sheet of paper with only one side, I don't think. Have you ever seen a sheet of paper with only one side? Okay. Will you have that? Okay. All right with her. But here, if you have ki on one side, you have ku the other side, then the paper is chu. It's whole. And so Buddha says you cannot treat one side of the sheet, or you cannot treat the other side of the sheet. You've got to treat the sheet. You see, that's the theory of holistic medicine. In 1992, holistic medicine says we cannot just treat ki the one side. We cannot just treat ku the other side. We've got to treat the whole thing. See, that's your Trinity. You can't have them. You have the Father, who is the whole thing. You have the Spirit, which is one side. You have the Son, which is the other side. And all three are one. They make up the same. So Buddha's saying, then you've got to choose chu. You've got to choose the middle way. See, not spiritual, not physical. You got to choose. Let's say we have a horse. Say ki is one horse, and say ku is another horse. Okay? And you're pulling a wagon with these two horses. Chu is the driver. See, chu is the one who pulls this horse. Hey, the spirit is getting too strong for the physical. Let's get back and get them in sync. So they go, here's my horse. Here's my horse. Are you ready for my horse? This is Jesus coming back in the white horse. Hey! And so here we have it here. Chu, you, inside of you is getting so sometimes your physical gets going, right? What do you have to do? Pull back the reins on the physical. Get them moving toward the goal, going together. Do you ever see the Budweiser horses? Everybody's in like, what? This is chu driving. Always have a little Dalmatian. We have Dalmatians, right? We have a Dalmatian, so we're all set. We have Dalmatian to set up here. Chu then keeps the. Do you see what? But when I'm this is taught by a man 3,000 years ago, 1,000 years before Jesus was born. What school did he go to learn all this stuff? Huh? Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha, taught you this stuff. How did he know? The middle way, as defined by Shakyamuni Buddha, referred to that which transcends the extremes of the opposites. It goes beyond. In other words, if you get too physical, if you get too spiritual, that center, that oneness will bring everything back together. But see, I couldn't get there because my one horse, the physical, was roaring and dragging the spirit down. And I didn't know that until now, see. And so that's the problem. It's not a compromise. You got to find a common ground between the physical and the spiritual. That's what's important to do. So it adds a third as I showed you on the piece of paper, it adds chu. See, so Shakyamuni, and I'd like you to hear this very closely. It's very important for you to hear this and understand this. Shakyamuni Buddha said, enlightenment lies neither in physical pleasure or spiritual austerity. It lies in the middle. So a lot of people, and I had been believing this, I'm going to get my enlightenment from being very spiritual. He said, no, you're not, because you're neglecting the physical. You've got to be aware you're a total person, and you've got to bring it into oneness, see? And so where does this all bring us to? It brings us to the beginning, and this is it. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. That's the chant. That's the chant. And brother, I chanted it many times going through this situation that I'm going through now. And this is the one he taught me about when he spoke to me, Renge, the cause and the effect. What's the effect of your life? The effect of your life is the causes that have been put in it. And the effect of your life, which may be misery, has been either caused by that which is in a previous existence, things that have been put into you by your parents, things that have been put into you by your school, things that have been put into you by your church. John Bradshaw says that a mother can set back a person forever by screaming at a little child. He says you can scream at a little child and cause the electrical aspects of the brain to change, and that child can be a neurotic forever. Because we don't understand what we're fooling with this treasure which lies within the consciousness of man. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo is the chant. And you say, well, I don't know if it works. Who cares whether you know if it works? You don't know if the sun works, but go down and lay in front of it, and it'll show you it works. It simply says, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, and it says, I have reverence for that which is me-o, the invisible, manifesting itself into ho, the physical, the law of cause of effect coming through on the lips of man, which is God. And then when you chant that, your mind is listening to it, because you have to understand something. Your mind does not communicate with the other parts of your body in English. God is not an American. That comes to a shock to a lot of other churches, but he's not. Do you see them in churches? They march in with the American flag. Da, 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 dun, dun, and the Marines come in up the aisle of the church. We won the war. We won the war. What is this? God is saying, hey, hey. You can see God up there with the angels. Hooray for the red, white, and blue. It's not what it is. It isn't what it is. When your body communicates with your mind, it's done in impulses, the universal strange sound of Om, and the impulses, vibrations. Start to learn the language by saying Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Go into the center of Om, and you start to fill yourself with the vibrations within you. That's the way your mind communicates. It doesn't communicate in English. It doesn't communicate in American. And Buddha said that that chanting can cure sickness, can cure uncontrollable anger. Go back to the horses we were talking about a minute ago. One horse is ki, one horse is ku. Who's the driver? Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. You see what he's saying? You want to bring this horse into control? Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. It does work. I don't know where I wouldn't have survived without it. So in order to understand how this works, we've got to open another door. And the door is ki-tai. Ki-tai. Okay? And the ki-tai is the truth of temporary existence. I'm teaching you Buddhic philosophy. I'm teaching you the teachings of Shakyamuni Buddha, the psychology of Shakyamuni Buddha. That goes back 3,000 years ago, that most religions have said stay away from. Figure that one out. If nothing else, learning this, you should realize somebody wasn't telling me the truth. Ki-tai is the truth of temporary existence. Ku-tai is what is called the truth of non-substantiality. Substantiality, okay? Truth of non-substantiality. Ki-tai refers to the physical aspects of life. Temporary. Physical body. Anything you can see, you can hear, you can feel, you can taste, anything you can see, hear, feel, is ki-tai. That's your physical body. Anything that can be defined, anything that can be measured is ki-tai. Okay? And it's called temporary because all physical existence, from the smallest atom to the universe, goes through the same cycle of, this is what it goes through: formation, birth, maturation, growth, decline, and finally disintegration. Everything is temporary. Everything in this room is temporary. See it? That's what he's talking about. Take a look. And this is the amazing thing. Do you know what this is for? Piece of paper to write on, right? You know what this is for? A speaker to hear music from? Look at this, a tree to decorate. Here, I can write on this. Look, I can put things on this. Look at carpets to walk on. You know what this is? Go ding dong, dong. Here, this is lights to light the place. Things to hold look at, there's not a thing in here. Look at here. Look at, you can look at screws in the chair. You know what it's for? To hold the screws, hold the chair together. Everything in this room, you know what it's for. Now the challenge, the ultimate challenge. Take a look at the person next to you. For what? For what? I don't know. I eat a little. I have some Chinese. I have a little sex once in a while. I go to, I don't know what. Everybody that's ever lived, for what? What did they come for? Nobody knows. The most magnificent creation of all. In here, we don't know. He knew. Jesus knew. Inside of you, waiting to be opened, is the key to the kingdom, the universe. To change the planet Earth into the planet Heaven. That's the purpose. For all eternity, that's the purpose. So then, everything on the Kitai is temporary existence. It's going to end. Nothing lasts forever. And this is what Shakyamuni Buddha said. Decay is inherent in all composite things. A subatomic particle, for instance, is very short. It lives 1,000 billion billionth of a second. You live 70, 80, 90 years, the universe goes on an unimaginable length of time. And even the universe, many scientists feel, will one day run its course. But just as our inner world and personalities change, the outer world does the same. And this is what Shakyamuni Buddha was trying to... Do you know that your body, do you know that the body you had 6 or 7 years ago doesn't exist anymore? Do you know that the body that you're living in now is not the same body you lived in 6 or 7 years ago? Completely changed. It isn't the same. Where did it go? It left. You were so concerned about it, it isn't even here anymore. You got a whole new one. It constantly renews itself, constantly renews itself. So, and this is, our inner world changes, our outer world changes. Do you know the only thing that you've got that's probably the same as your teeth? And some of us don't have all of that. Jacob Bronowski said, and this gets a little bit deep, but we're at the end of this thing. He said, this is interesting. At universities, on Mondays and Wednesdays and Fridays, the electrons behave like a particle. On Tuesdays and Thursdays and Saturdays, they behave like a wave. Why? Now, don't ask me. He said, and then he says, how could you match these two aspects using logic from the scale of the world about aspects pushed into a single entity inside the world of an atom? How can you evaluate these things using the logic? It's like, how much is 2 and 2? They don't know. I'm up here talking for 45 minutes. They don't know how much 2 and 2. Okay, maybe we'll start from the beginning. Go to the first page here. This is H-O. 2 and 2 is 4. That's right. Look at, she's waving back here. Mother, 4, she said. 2 and 2 is 4. But do you know in physics, and I wish Albert was here, 2 and 2 is not necessarily 4. Because you can take 2 ounces of this thing and 2 ounces of that thing and get 3.7 ounces. Did you know that? Well, it's true. So you know what they had to do in physics? They had to make up a whole new arithmetic to cover that. Because 2 and 2 does not make 4. So what I'm telling you is the speculation, the argument, you've got to have new calculations. When you start to think about yourself and you've dwelled on the outside, you've dwelled on the things that you could see, you have to come to a whole new way of doing things as you begin to enter this strange world that is located between your ears. God lives in a temple made without human hands. Put your fingers up in the air. See this? Put to it. You know what that's? Don't pull the trigger. That's the temple. That's the temple. The only temple made without human hands on the face of the earth is on the side of your head. And when Jesus chased the money changers out of the temple, it's mysticism, meaning chasing the thoughts out of this temple, chasing the thoughts out of their mind. So when we understand, then Buddha would say, are these brilliant scientists which have cut matter into the smallest fragments for their experiments. What have they done? Watch me. What have they done? I'm almost done. What have they done? What have they done? What have all these scientists done? They've gone and looked in this. They've looked in this atom. They've looked in this particle. They've pulled this apart. They've looked at all of these things. They looked at all of it. And you know what they've done? As they have investigated key, they started to open the door to cool. And all of a sudden you find scientists like we got on the back bench there saying that we have learned that there's a strange thing that happens when the pineal gland secretes this elixir called melatonin. It kills cancer cells. And then you hear Jesus Christ speaking 3,000, 2,000 years ago saying, if your eye be single, your body fills with light, melatonin, and physician, heal yourself. See? And so this is what's happening. The experiments of scientists have brought them through key closer and closer to coup. That's the truth, and that's the truth of non-substantiality. The truth of non-substantiality is that this is not the Word of God. A Bible is not the Word of God. This is the Nelson version. Who is he? Maybe he's a communist. I don't know what he put in there. Do you understand what I'm telling you? And everybody's got a different Bible with a different publisher and something different to tell you about what the Word of God. But you know what it says in here? The Word was made flesh and dwelt amongst us. His name or his way is called the Word. That which is the Christ who dwells within you is the Word. That's non-substantiality. You can sit here, and you know what you'll do? You won't come here Tuesday night because, key, how could I leave my couch? What would the couch do tonight without me? The couch will be sad. The couch, the arms of the couch are waiting to encircle me as I lie there and turn the television on so I can watch 6 minutes of my favorite show before I fall asleep. See, that's key. Gotta have the couch. I see people sometimes, they get up, and they're about 3/4 of the way through the meditation, and they'll go out. Not used to it. And they'll go upstairs, and they're on Route 9. To go where? I don't know. Why are you going? I don't know. You know why you're going? Because you can't stand to hang out with yourself. You are bored to death by yourself. And then you wonder why other people don't want to hang around with you. You don't want to hang around with yourself. You know, did you ever see it? I got to do something. That's fine. I got to do something. What have I got to do? I don't know, but I got to do something. What happens if I don't? Oh, my God, if I come here Tuesday night, I won't be able to do what? I don't know. But what happened? All the Tuesday nights you weren't here, what did you do? Nothing. But what would you do if you didn't come? Nothing. What are you going to do Tuesday night? Oh, I can't come this Tuesday night because I've got to. And so that's what you do. Nothing. And you'll miss cool and can, kitai and kutai, and going into the universe, the actual elixir of the gods within you waiting to be opened up. But you have to be on the couch. After all, they're having something on HBO. You don't want God. You don't want to miss something on HBO. After all, a football player may be running down to the 50-yard line. Hold his hand up, he wins. Don't want to miss that. If you are playing football in the NFL on television, I will record it. But I will come here. Or did your face turn red? Didn't expect that. I could tackle a football player. You think I'm in bad shape? 30 years old, and look what I did to this football player. Oh, gee. So, but then the truth of non-substantiality is because you cannot substantiate the fact that it exists does not mean that it doesn't exist. And because the whole world follows a different pathway, because most people follow it does not make error truth. Right. You've seen the world and you've seen what's happened to it. Finished. Dr. Paul Davies of Theoretical Physics in London says, finding a theory, just go with me for this last minute. Finding a theory to explain the essential nature of the atom would represent the culmination of all physics. A way of explaining the behavior and structure of all matter. Can you imagine such a thing? I mean, inside of your head there are colonies of things, little things living in there, going different places, working around different places. See? Little things in my head, you know, when I get my freak-out time. And they ring the bell, ding, 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 whoop, 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 all hands on deck, he's freaking out, do something. And they send all of these things, and I get hot flashes, and I'm going all crazy, and I'm doing all this stuff. When you cut yourself, did you ever cut yourself? Nobody ever cut themselves. When you cut yourself, you know what happens? Little things go whoop, whoop, ding, 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 and all the little red corpuscles and white corpuscles and all the little suckles run around and say, coagulate, coagulate, it's going to bleed. And they all run in, all of a sudden, they don't ask you if suckles should go up there and coagulate. They just coagulate. How do they know who told them to coagulate? I want to know that from you. You don't even know that there is coagulating in you. Did you know you were coagulating? You probably thought it was a dirty word. Oh, he said coagulate in front of the kids. Huh? But what I'm saying to you, it all goes on. In the old days, you know what I used to do? Go to bed, and then when the nurse was asleep and the dogs were sound asleep, I would get up and sneak out to the refrigerator. And there would stand those words that I love to read even more than the Bible. Cookies and cream. Wow. I mean, that's holy stuff. And I take out, and there is nothing more holy. You talk about getting an orgastic experience. Nothing like about 3 o'clock in the morning when you're a little bit hungry, going out into the dark and scooping up cookies and cream. And it goes down, you can feel the cookies and cream spreading through your system like melatonin. And I convinced myself that it was melatonin. I was healing cancer and taking it all the cookies. Why can't cookies and cream heal cancer? Why does it have to be all this stupid stuff? Here, take 3 scoops of cookies and cream and you'll be all healed. Why not? I eat it with a fork. There's something about eating ice cream with a fork. There's something about eating ice cream with a fork that's a lot better. Yeah. But then, so as we wrap this up, when science tries to explain all of these secrets in one quotation, they're looking for a master formula for the universe, and Shakyamuni Buddha came and he said that one aspect of the middle way, the constantly changing physical aspect of you, and Buddha said the formula is Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. That's the formula. And as we go on in a couple of weeks or 3 weeks when we continue with this, we'll take up the truth of non-substantiality. But basically all that's been told to you this morning is that this voice from thousands of years ago was trying to get you to understand that there is an invisible force lying dormant that when you touch it, it explodes into life. It comes from ku to ki, and then takes you and brings you into the fullness of manifesting physical healing, manifesting new life, not only for yourself, but for the universe. And we're going to give you an opportunity to do that now. Thank you for sharing this